January 2nd does not arrive like a door suddenly swinging open. It comes more like a moment when you pause in a familiar room and quietly realize the light has changed. There is no loud sound, no obvious sign, just a strange feeling slipping inward, soft, yet certain, as if something deeper is beginning to stir awake. You are still there, moving through the same familiar rhythm of life, but something inside you is no longer standing still. Libra, you are not someone who panics easily. You are used to balance, used to keeping things just right. But this day feels different. You may not be able to name what is happening. You only know that your intuition has begun to speak. It does not shout. It whispers. It does not demand. It invites. And what unsettles you most is not the change itself, but how strangely familiar it feels, as if you have stood at this exact point a very long time ago. There are moments in life when we do not need more information or more explanations. We only need to listen to the subtle shift happening inside us. January 2nd carries that kind of energy. It does not push you to act right away. It simply places a signal in your hands, clear enough that you cannot ignore it, yet gentle enough that it does not force you forward. This is not confusion. This is awareness, slowly opening its eyes. You may feel it in the smallest pauses. A morning where you sit still a little longer than usual. A casual comment that touches a place you have learned to hide. An old thought returning, but no longer triggering resistance. None of this is random. These moments appear when a cycle has finished its work, when what once helped you survive is no longer needed for you to grow. Libra, you have lived through many phases where you had to be stronger than your own emotions. You learned how to endure, how to soften conflict, how to keep the peace, even when your inner world was no longer balanced. And you did that well. But not everything that was once right needs to be carried forever. Some layers were created to protect you during the storm, and when the storm passes, those same layers become heavy. January 2nd brings the moment when you begin to realize this, not through logic, but through feeling. You stop arguing with yourself about being fine. You stop forcing yourself to understand everything immediately. Instead, you allow yourself to stay with the uncertainty just a little longer. And in that permission, light begins to enter. This light is not harsh. It does not overwhelm you. It is like early morning sunlight, soft enough to reveal dust in the air, gentle enough to show how the room you are standing in has changed over time. It allows you to look back without blame, without justification, only with a quiet compassion towards yourself. You may not be ready to name what is ending, and that is completely okay. Every ending deserves respect, like a long exhale after a tiring journey. You do not need to slam the door shut. You only need to stop, holding it open out of habit. As you sit with yourself in this moment, you begin to understand that change is not here to take anything away. It is here to return what you once forgot, the safety of being yourself, the relief of no longer holding tension, and the deep peace of knowing you do not need to try harder to be worthy. January 2nd begins just like this, soft, deep, and very real. And as you allow yourself to slow down, to listen more closely, you will realize that something within you is quietly being called by name, not through words, but through your full presence in this very moment. And in that full presence, a wave of emotion begins to rise, quiet but undeniably real. It no longer rests at the bottom of your heart the way it used to. It reaches you in the most ordinary moments, when you sit alone and suddenly feel your chest grow a little heavier, when you hear a familiar voice and realize you no longer have the strength to pretend you are fine. Those emotions no longer agree to stay hidden. They stand up, slowly, but with certainty, as if they have been waiting far too long for this moment. You may recognize this in a relationship you once tried to hold together at all costs. Perhaps in a marriage, where you learned to stay silent so you would not hurt anyone else, while quietly leaving yourself behind. Or perhaps in the way you grew used to receiving only what was just enough, telling yourself it was fine, telling yourself you should not ask for more. But deep inside, your emotions never accepted that compromise. They simply rested, waiting for the moment you would be strong enough to listen. And now, you cannot avoid them anymore. not because you have grown weaker, but because you have grown wiser. You begin to feel the difference between true peace and the calm that is built on endurance. You realize that some sadness is not meant to be rushed past, but meant to be seen, named, and held with the same kindness you have given others for so many years. These emotions do not rise to disrupt your life. They arrive like an old friend returning after a long absence, carrying a truth you are finally ready to face. You may feel sadder than usual or more sensitive to things that once seemed small, but this is not a setback. It is a sign that your heart is opening, no longer tightly closed in self-protection. You allow yourself to feel without judgment, without forcing understanding too quickly. In these moments, you may see a version of yourself from the past, someone who tried very hard to keep everything balanced, to keep everyone from being disappointed. And this time, instead of blaming yourself, you simply exhale, as if quietly telling yourself, "I did the best I could." That gentleness is where healing begins. You do not need to make a big decision right now. You do not need to change everything overnight. What matters more is that you are no longer turning away from your true feelings. You listen to them the way you listen to your own heartbeat, steady, honest, and close. And as you do, you begin to understand that emotions are not here to break your life apart. They are here to guide you back to the core values you once set aside. A quiet clarity begins to form, not in your mind, but in your heart. You start to see what truly exhausts you, what makes you shrink, and what allows you to feel like yourself again. This truth no longer feels frightening. It brings relief, as if you have finally set down a heavy suitcase you have carried for far too long. And when you sit with these feelings, without rushing, without running away, a new inner space begins to open. A space quiet enough to hear your own breath clearly, bright enough to see what you truly need. In that stillness, you lose nothing. You are simply, slowly, calling back the parts of yourself you once handed to others by mistake. And as that rhythm of life begins to take shape, you no longer feel the need to chase anything. A natural slowing appears, not forced by circumstance, and not because you have lost motivation. It comes from within, like a quiet decision of the soul, that it is time to stop rushing. January 2nd carries this rhythm, slow but steady, gentle enough to let you see each step you are taking on a path you once walked unconsciously. You begin to observe everything from a distance that feels just right. Not so far that you become cold, and not so close that you are pulled under. You can see clearly who remains when things are no longer easy, and who only appears when everything is flowing smoothly. In the past, you may have blamed yourself for disappointments, for expectations that were never met. But in this slowing down, you stop blaming anyone. You simply look. And in that looking, the truth reveals itself quietly, yet unmistakably. Some connections do not need dramatic endings for you to understand that they no longer move at your pace. They naturally fall back when you stop trying to hold them together. And there are others who, in the simplest way, remain present. No promises, no display, just there. This slowing allows you to tell the difference, not through sharp logic, but through the sense of peace you feel when you are near someone. In these rare moments of stillness, you return to yourself more often. You begin to listen to needs you once set aside for others. You realize how used you were to filling empty spaces with busyness, with responsibility, with caring for everyone around you. Now, you allow yourself to fill that space with your own presence. A morning without hurry, an evening without explanation, a moment simply to breathe and feel that you are here, fully. You begin to understand that slowing down does not place you behind. It brings you into alignment. When you stop following the rhythm of others, you hear your own heartbeat more clearly. And that heartbeat, quiet as it may be, guides you toward choices that last. You no longer choose out of fear of losing. You choose because something feels right. You no longer stay out of habit. You stay because there is real connection. A new trust begins to grow within you. Trust that you do not need to prove your presence by always being available. Trust that your value does not decrease when you choose to move slowly. Trust that what belongs to you will not disappear just because you stop chasing it. That trust gives you a deep sense of safety, as if your feet have finally reached solid ground after standing on unstable water for far too long. And within that safety, you begin to feel a joy that is small, but unmistakably real. The joy of no longer guessing what others mean. The joy of no longer asking yourself if you have done enough. The joy of realizing that your presence in the right place at the right time is already enough. The spaces that once made you anxious now become places where you can breathe, where you can rest, where you can recover. When you allow slowing down to lead, you are not standing still. You are preparing for another step, one that is steadier and wiser. And within that preparation, something important is quietly happening. You are no longer waiting for someone else to come and fill you. You are becoming whole within yourself. And from that wholeness, every connection that enters your life will carry a completely different quality. And once you are steady in that sense of wholeness, something very natural begins to happen. You do not need to name it, but you feel it as clearly as warmth spreading slowly through your palms. A deeper seriousness toward yourself, and from there, toward everything you allow to enter your life. Not a heavy seriousness, not restriction, but a conscious choice, rooted in self-respect and inner clarity. You realize that commitment no longer feels intimidating, no longer something to hesitate around. In the past, you may have been afraid to ask for clarity, afraid of making others uncomfortable, afraid of disturbing the fragile peace you worked so hard to maintain. But when you are no longer empty inside, you no longer need vague connections to fill you. You step into a relationship, or step away from it, from the same grounded place. The truth is, when you no longer need someone to complete you, you only allow those who truly align with you to stay. In an existing relationship, you may begin to feel a clear shift. No more circular conversations. No more long silences that force you to guess. If someone wants to walk beside you, they must show up with full presence. Not because you demand it, but because the energy you now carry no longer matches half measures. You do not need to explain yourself. The way you live, the way you honor your boundaries, becomes a clear invitation or a clear refusal. And if you are alone, that aloneness no longer feels like lack. It feels like open space. A space where you are calm enough to recognize who enters out of curiosity and who enters because they genuinely want to stay. You begin to attract people who know what they are looking for, people who do not play emotional games, who do not need grand gestures to prove sincerity. Connection now carries a different quality, slower, deeper, more honest. You are no longer drawn to beautiful promises, but to the feeling of safety when you are near someone. In this moment, you understand that commitment is not a loss of freedom. It is the greatest freedom, because you no longer live in uncertainty. Commitment with others begins with commitment to yourself, that you will not return to old compromises, that you will not trade peace for unclear connection, that you deserve what is offered openly, without guessing, without waiting. A gentle light begins to shine on your relationships. It does not judge. It does not accuse. It simply reveals what is real, what is habit, and what has reached the moment of change. You no longer want to argue to be chosen. You no longer want to stay to be proven worthy. You choose clarity, even when clarity means letting go. And strangely enough, that choice does not take anything from you. It lightens you. You begin to move forward with a quiet trust. Trust that what is truly meant for you will not need to be pulled. Trust that stable connections do not require you to shrink. Trust that love, partnership, and any meaningful commitment begins with the freedom of being yourself, not the fear of being left behind. And as you rest in that feeling, without rushing, without closing off, you sense that life is preparing to place something very real into your hands, not loud, not performative, but deep enough that doubt no longer follows it. A presence, a promise, or a choice. Arriving at the exact moment you are no longer seeking from emptiness, but from readiness. And in that readiness, you feel it clearly. You are stepping into a rhythm of life, where every commitment is built on light, on respect, and on a heart that has learned how to stay with itself. And as you move within that rhythm of life, something very natural begins to happen, like morning mist slowly dissolving as the sun rises. What was once unclear no longer has a place to hide, not because you go searching for the truth, but because you have become clear enough that you are no longer easily distracted. The truth does not arrive as a shock. It comes as a gentle confirmation of what you have quietly felt for a long time. You begin to look at everything through a different lens. No more coloring things in, no more hoping that time will somehow fix what was never properly placed to begin with. Words and actions now stand side by side, clearly. When someone says they care, you feel it in how they show up. When someone says they are busy, you can also see what they choose to prioritize. There is no longer space for you to fill in the gaps with imagination, or to explain things away on your own. What is surprising is that this truth no longer hurts the way it once did. Perhaps because you are no longer standing in a place where you need someone else to become something different for you to feel whole. You simply see, and you acknowledge. If there is dishonesty, it no longer confuses you. It simply tells you, this is not where you are meant to stay. If there is a lack of effort, you no longer ask yourself what you did wrong. It only reminds you that real connection does not need to be dragged forward. You begin to recognize that some relationships existed because of your endurance, not because of balance. And when you stop enduring in the old way, the structure naturally reveals its cracks. No arguments needed, no confrontation required. The truth becomes clear enough that you no longer stay out of memory or habit. In this moment, you notice how calm you have become when facing imbalance. You no longer reshape yourself to fit someone else's frame. You no longer shrink your needs to keep the peace. A deep respect for yourself is now guiding you, and from that place, nothing remains unclear. The truth also illuminates what is good. You can clearly see who has always been there, quietly, who speaks less, but does more, who does not make grand promises, yet whose presence brings you peace. These connections do not need to be tested. They stand on their own through a natural consistency. There may be moments when you need to slow your breath as something gently falls away, but even then, you no longer feel the loss the same way. You understand that what leaves was an illusion, not true value. And each time an illusion fades, the space within you grows wider, brighter, with room for what can truly stay. You begin to trust clarity as a form of healing. Not healing through denial of pain, but healing through refusing to live in confusion any longer. You allow yourself to name what is happening, even if that name leads to a difficult decision. Ease was never meant to measure what is right. As this light spreads, you no longer search for perfection in others. You look only for truth. And truth, even when it causes you to pause, brings a profound sense of freedom. Freedom from guessing, freedom from waiting, freedom from hoping that someone will become what they are not ready to be. In the quiet that follows after everything has been seen, you realize you are standing very firmly, not because every answer is known, but because you are no longer afraid of what you might discover. And from that place without fear, a real lightness begins to spread, as if life itself is whispering that you are ready now to keep only what is built on sincerity, on real effort, and on a presence that does not require doubt. And within that sense of relief, a very quiet decision is made inside you. Not a decision formed in words, but one felt. You no longer carry old wounds as part of your identity. They stayed long enough to teach you what you needed to learn, and now you set them down with both hands, carefully, with respect, like placing down something precious that has fulfilled its purpose. You do not forget what happened. You simply stop letting it drive your life. There were memories that once caused you to close yourself off, that made you cautious each time you opened your heart, that made you question whether you should trust again. Now, when you look back, they are no longer sharp. They have softened, as if wrapped in understanding. You know you responded in the best way you could at the time, and that understanding is enough to release self-blame. A very real sense of freedom appears when you choose inner peace. You no longer need to prove how much you endured. You no longer need to retell old stories to be seen or validated. You allow silence to do its work. In that silence, Your body breathes more easily. Your mind loosens its grip. And your heart, for the first time in a long while, does not have to brace itself for protection. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is a quiet, refined form of strength. It is the strength of knowing when to stop, when to choose the path that costs your soul the least. You realize that holding tightly to pain does not make you loyal to the past. It only clouds the present, and you are tired of seeing life through an old window scratched with time. When you choose to release, you also choose to open. Not wide open to everything, but open enough for what is healthy to find you. You stop searching for rescue from the outside. You stop placing hope on someone else, healing what you once neglected in yourself. You learn how to stay with yourself on imperfect days, and that staying becomes the foundation for every step that follows. There may be moments when old pain returns, like a sudden breeze. This time, you do not resist. You notice it, breathe with it, and let it pass. You no longer confuse passing emotion with lasting truth. You understand that a feeling can visit without needing to stay, and you no longer build walls to protect yourself from your own emotions. As peace continues to spread, you begin to look ahead with a very different gaze. No heaviness, no fear, only a gentle curiosity about what is waiting. The road ahead does not promise ease, but it carries a new quality. The quality of truth, of choices made from a place of wholeness, not lack, of steps taken with deep respect for yourself. You realize that a new direction does not need to be fully mapped. It reveals itself gradually through the way you live each day, the way you say no when needed, the way you say yes when your heart is truly open, the way you choose rest when you are tired instead of forcing yourself forward. These small choices are quietly building a life you no longer need to escape from just to breathe. And in this moment, standing between what has passed and what is forming, you feel a strange, steady strength. Not because you know how everything will turn out, but because you know you will not abandon yourself again. From that place, a new path opens. Not loud, not dazzling, but bright enough to carry you forward with a lighter heart, greater freedom, and the readiness to receive whatever arrives through the full presence you have learned to give yourself. And as you walk forward with that heart, you begin to notice that the rhythm of life around you is changing as well. Not through major upheavals, but through a simple sense that everything is becoming easier to breathe in. From January 2nd onward, you are no longer fighting the current. You begin to move with it, gently, yet with direction, as if what once felt out of sync is now finding its place again. A different kind of stability starts to appear in your work, in your relationships, and in the way you face yourself. You no longer wake up feeling like you have to brace yourself for the day. You notice a natural focus returning. Decisions come with less hesitation. The things that once distracted you begin to fall away, making room for a quiet clarity. You do not have to force yourself to believe that everything will be okay. You can feel it in the small details of everyday life. In your relationships, the difference becomes unmistakable. Stable connections are easier to recognize than ever. No more guessing games. No more silences that make you doubt yourself. Everything moves with a simple coherence, and if someone new appears or a new opportunity opens, it arrives at exactly the right moment. Not too early, when you are not ready. Not too late, when you would have had to wait longer. You understand now that this kind of timing is not accidental. There was a time when you asked yourself why you had to endure so many challenges. Now, that question carries less bitterness. You begin to see a wider picture. What you went through was not forgotten. It was transformed into steadiness, into compassion, into the ability to see clearly without becoming hardened. And from that place, life seems to be returning to you what you once gave quietly. You may receive an offer that brings a soft smile, a conversation that makes you feel heard, a very ordinary moment that is just enough to let you know you are on the right path. These moments do not need exaggeration. They matter because they arrive when you no longer doubt yourself. You receive them not with urgency, but with a deep, settled gratitude. You understand now that a favorable cycle does not mean everything will be easy. It simply carries a different quality. The quality of cooperation instead of constant resistance, of support instead of endless testing. You no longer feel as if you have to fight just to live your own life. You live, and life responds. When you look back, you no longer want to fast forward. Every part had its reason. And when you look ahead, you no longer need to look too far. You trust the next step. You trust your ability to adjust, to choose, to stay aligned with your truth. That trust is quiet but unshakable. And if there is one thing that remains, it is this understanding. You do not need to become a different version of yourself to deserve good things. You only need to continue being who you are, with full presence, with respect for your emotions, with a readiness to receive life as it is opening to you. From January 2nd onward, this journey is no longer a struggle. It becomes a meeting between you and what truly belongs to you.